السلام عليكم طلابي الأعزاء، كيف حالكم اليوم؟ سوف نكمل إن شاء الله اليوم بعضا من الأسئلة والتمارين. اليوم سوف نقوم بحل تمرين summary completion, or if you want to need to complete a summary here. And this is probably one of the most challenging questions in IELTS, because first of all, it is a summary, so you have to summarize like lots of information from a big text into a very short paragraph, as you can see here. This is the first thing. So what I do first is I usually read the title, as we said before, and the subtitle if there is any. As you can see, this is bold type, so it's just like a mini introduction, if I can say that. So I just go through it very quickly. A spark, a flint, how fire leapt to life. So talking about how fire started, as you can see from the picture here, there is a flame or like a match that is lit up with fire. And read the subtitle. The control of fire was the first and perhaps greatest of humanity's steps towards a life-enhancing technology. Okay, we got a general idea now, so I just go immediately to the questions. Now the title, pay attention to the title, of course. Now after we read the question directions, now here we have to choose from the box below. As you can see, too many words, but only 8 blanks, just to make your life miserable. And here, as you can see, we may also use any of them more than once, again just to make your life more miserable. So what do we do here? We start with the title, so we're going to only tackle with the paragraphs that talk about the early stages of fire and how they started to create fire. Primitive societies, so here they give you an example. Primitive societies saw fire as a heavenly gift. Okay, where did they get this from? I look for the word primitive societies or something similar. Primitive society, early man. Okay, to early man, fire was a divine gift. Divine, now the closest meaning for the word divine in this box is heavenly. That's the closest in meaning. So I just use the word heavenly. Now remember, of course I put here a sign or an X next to it, but remember that we can use it more than once. So there is a possibility of using it more than once. Okay. Now we will start with this. Now they're talking about these people. They tried to what? Burning logs or charcoal. Now here we have keywords. Burning logs or charcoal. So I go through this here. So burning logs here, I find it. Now, usually you would start from the beginning when looking for answers. So burning logs and charcoal is here. So they tried to what? Let's see here. So people probably stored fire by keeping slow burning logs. So I want to find something that means keep. Now remember again, we are looking for synonyms in most cases. We're not going to find, usually we do not find exactly the same words, and that is why you must learn synonyms. راح أكتب لكم إياه هون. يعني لازم تعرفوا synonyms أو as many as possible synonyms for words. Okay. طيب, let's proceed. So I need something that means keeping slow burning or keeping burning logs. So I go through them. I find the word preserve. Okay, here it is. So I just try it here. So I'm going to write it here. Preserve. And something very important, you need to read it all together. They try to preserve burning logs or charcoal. Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds fine to me. Right, let's proceed. They tried to preserve burning logs or charcoal that they could create fire themselves. So I want to find something that means that they could create fire themselves. Now remember, we find burning logs here, and this is, as you can see, is one sentence. Which means what? Which means I need to look in that one sentence. Now this sentence where I found burning logs and charcoal starts here, as you can see. This is a full stop here. So this is a full stop, and the beginning of our sentence is here. Unable to make flame for themselves. Look here. flame for themselves, create fire themselves. Do you see the similarity? Create fire themselves, find flame themselves. Okay, so probably the word is unable to make fire themselves. Okay, so I will look for a word that means unable. I go through them. Okay, I find this word, but I'm not sure. So just put a small mark next to it and I keep looking. Is there something that means unable? No. The closest in meaning is unaware. Now, unaware doesn't mean exactly unable, but this is the closest in meaning. And if I try it here, let's try. Unaware. Okay, so just like, let's make it in small letters or begin with a small letter. So charcoal, unaware that they could create fire themselves. This sounds perfectly fine. It sounds very similar to our sentence here. Okay, now let's proceed. It is suspected that the first man-made flames were produced by what? So these are the keywords. First man-made flames produced. Okay, so what would I do now? I just go and I start where I stopped. Now this is a new sentence, so probably it might be somewhere here. So first man-made flames produced by something. How to produce? Okay, how and where man learned to produce flame at will. This means what? First man-made flame, almost yani, is unknown. It was probably a secondary invention accidentally made, okay, during tool making operative with wood or stone, okay? So probably something that means it was probably a secondary invention accidentally made. Accidentally made. So I'll just keep reading. It is suspected that the first man-made flames were produced by, I would say by accident then. Okay, so I will look for a word that means by accident. Even if you try the other words, you might see that they don't work. By Mexicans, of course not. By despite, sunlight. By heating, no, they didn't mention anything here. By random, now maybe by random, but you cannot say by random. يعني هاي الكلمة بمعنى accidentally. ولكن إيش غلط يعني لغويا if you put it in the sentence it doesn't fit. So I keep looking. By chance. Okay, so this is perfect. By chance. Okay, so I think that the word is by chance. So I'm just gonna write it here. So I will say by chance. Now I read it all together. It sounds okay. It sounds perfect. Okay, let's proceed now. The very first fire lighting method or lighting methods involved the creation of something. Okay, so I highlight the most important words. First fire lighting method involved what? Creation of something. By, for example, rapidly something. Okay, type. It's involved the creation of something. So I'm just going to go to my text. So wherever I stopped here, studies of primitive societies suggest that the earliest method of making, look here, earliest method of making fire, first or very first lighting methods involved the creation of what? I keep reading. Was through friction. This is the key word. Now, do I have a word that means friction or similar to friction? Let's go through it very quickly. I keep looking. Here it is. It's the same word. Okay, now, يعني exceptionally and in rare conditions, they would use the same word. So I write friction here. Okay, very good. Now, let's proceed. Rapidly, a wooden stick in a round hole. Rapidly, which means quickly, doing something, a wooden stick in a round hole. So I need to find rapidly, wooden stick, round hole. So I just read, I go through it quickly now. Let's use a different color now. Rapidly, I need to, okay, here, wooden drill, a round hole. I found some words and rotate it. Here, rotate it and So this is the word probably. Briskly between their palms. Briskly, it means what? If you go back to the text, rapidly. So rapidly and briskly the same. So what do they do with this wooden stick? They rotate it. Like they move it in circles around its axis. So rotate, I go quickly here. I look for a word that means rotate or similar to it. Here it is, rotating. Am I sure? Okay, I am half sure. So what would I do? I just write the word rotating. Okay, here it is. Let's color it with black. Okay, rotating. Now I read it all together. Rapidly rotating a wooden stick in a round hole. Okay, it sounds perfect to me. Type. Let's continue now. The use of what or persistent chipping. This is a key word. So the use of something or persistent chipping was also widespread in Europe. Okay, so the use of something or persisting, or by persistent chipping. Okay, so I go through it now quickly. Now wherever I stopped, the ancient Greeks used lenses. Okay, they're talking about ancient Greeks here. It doesn't really match it. Were also used by Mexican, Aztec, and the Chinese. Okay. Percussion methods of fire lightning date back to Paleolithic, whatever, or Paleolithic, times, when some Stone Age tool makers discovered that chipping, here's the word chipping flinks, okay? So chipping is one of them, صح? Now we found it. So chipping, okay, or something else. So what was that? Percussion method of fire lightning date back to Paleolithic times, when some Stone Age toolmakers discovered that chipping flints produce sparks. Okay, so I think the word is percussion. So what would I do? I go back. Here it is, percussion. Okay, so that's the word then. So I just, so the use of percussion or persistent chipping. Percussion. Okay, here it is. Now, let's continue reading. Persist was also widespread in Europe and among other people, such as Chinese and something. Okay, so such as Chinese and... Okay, now I need to go then look for the word Chinese. And that we want to talk about that the use of persistent chipping was also widespread in Europe and among other people. So this chipping, wherever we stopped here, I need to keep reading and find where it was also used. So I keep reading. The technique became more efficient after the discovery of iron, etc., etc. Ago in Arctic North America, the Eskimos produced a slow-burning spark by striking quartz against iron pyrites. Okay, a compound that contains sulfur. The Chinese lit their fires by striking porcelain with bamboo. Okay, so they're all here talking about striking or hitting things to make what? Fire. So the Chinese did this, and who else? The Eskimos. Now, do I find Eskimos? Now, of course, there is no other word for Eskimos. Eskimos are Eskimos, so we look for it. Yes, here it is. So I'm just going to use the word Eskimo here. Okay, so I just write it, Eskimos. Okay, now let's move to the last question here, or the last gap to fill. European practice of this method, that is using the chipping or whatever, or using chipping. So practice of this method continued until the 1850s. And then the discovery of phosphorus some years earlier. So they discovered something earlier, but they did not use it. So they continued using this chipping method. Okay. So we will go through here. I need to look for something that means 1850s. As we said before, that if you have dates, it helps a lot. So I need to look for 1850s or something that means 1850s. So I just proceed with reading. I go through it very quickly. And here is a date. 19th century, that is 18 something. So until the mid 19th century. Here's the same expression. Until the 1850s means until the mid-19th. So this is where I should find the answer. Now here, Europe, look at this word. In Europe, Europeans. Okay. So in Europe, the combination of steel, flint, and tinder remained the main method of fire. So it remained the main method, and they discovered phosphorus some years earlier, and they talked about that phosphorus used also to light fire in the previous part here. So they kept using this, although we had this one. Although we had used phosphorus, they kept using this method of the chipping thing. So I need to put a sentence or a word that gives the meaning. So what would I say? Mexicans, definitely not. Despite. Okay, this looks close. I keep reading. Until the discovery of phosphorus some years earlier. It doesn't work because we have the word earlier. I can't use it with until. So that would prohibit me from using it. So I keep reading. Smoke, rotating, friction, make. The only one is this one, actually, which is despite. So definitely it's going to be the word despite the discovery. So if I put it together and I read it, and if I have time and I revise the text, this would be the correct meaning. And this is how we do the reading. Please support the channel by subscribing and clicking the like button and share it with your friends. أشكر لكم حسن المتابعة. يا ريت تدعموا القناة بلايك، سبسكرايب وشير. أتمنى أن تكونوا قد استفدتم من هذا التمرين.